Hey guys, Wild Willie here. The number one question I get from people when I do home preparedness courses is what kind of generator should I get? How big should I get? What should I look for when buying one? So I'm going to go over three basic things to look for on the generator, the three basic size categories, and we'll go from there. So number one, I'm going to say, what is a solar generator? Solar generator is essentially a battery pack that can be charged three ways, not only from plugging it into your 120 household, but also plugging into your 12-volt car, and more importantly, can be charged with solar. That's what classifies it as a solar generator. Now you're looking at three sizes generally when it comes to solar generation. You have your entry level, which is going to be under 500 watts and under. In Canada, you're still paying around $1 a watt, a little bit cheaper in some areas when you get deals. So think of it that way, 500 watts and under, that's going to do your cell phone, your tablets, keep a couple light bulbs on. It can run, it'll run your Wi-Fi router for a few hours. Depending on the size of your TV, might help you out there a little bit for a couple hours and, in a game system. Very small unit, and this here is 268 watt hours, small hours, you're paying around $300, a little bit less for it. That's the basics. Next is the step up. Next is a mid-range generator, and that's going to be anywhere from 500 watts to 1,000 watts, and that's exactly what you're going to pay, anywhere between $500 and $1,000 for a mid-range one. This will run a lot more. This will run, this particular unit, when we get into the AC inverter on here in a minute, this can run for most very small appliances up to 1,200 watts, 2,000 watt surge. This is going to run the coffee maker. This is going to run, most of this even run, a small refrigerator or a modern, residential refrigerator short term, and whatnot. Once again, this is 614 watts, and this is around the $600 mark. You're going to be in that area, depending on what your needs are. And then you get, over 1,000 watts. This is a 2,000 watt unit with a 4,000 watt surge, and this thing will power anything in my home. This thing would power, the toaster oven, the microwave, the coffee maker, the electric grill, the refrigerator. This covers everything and then some. But once again, you're going to pay about 1,000 watts, so you're going to pay close to $2,000 for a unit like this. But regardless on what you buy and what brand you buy, you have to figure out your needs, how many watts you want to be comfortable with, what you can realistically afford. But there's three questions you should be asking. How much watts do I need? What kind of inverter's on there and how powerful the inverter is? And lastly, the battery composition. What's inside to make these things tick? So let's look at a couple examples here. We'll look at this Blue Yeti. So if you see there, it says 268 watt hours, which means there's 268 usable watt hours I can use in there. And you're wondering 268. Well, think of it as plugging in this and 100 watt light bulb in here. So if you used 100 watts, you could, and this is 268, so you could run this for 2.68 hours roughly. Run that light bulb for. Just simple math to give you an idea. But what you're not only looking at is the wattage, the actual wattage, watt hours that are on there. You're also looking at two things on the inverter, the AC inverter. One is a pure sine. What is pure sine? That's going to be very good for your higher end and very particular electronics like your iMacs and stuff. It really gives a constant level of power, no jimmying around. It could wreck very sensitive electronics if you don't have a pure sine inverter. But all the solar generators nowadays do have pure sine. Next, and more importantly, you're going to look at your AC output. This is a 600 watt inverter on here, which means you can plug something in here up to 600 watts and it'll run it fine. It probably has an 800 watt surge, can handle a little bit more, but 600 watts, you can plug something in there and it'll run it. It won't run it for very long, mind you, because you only got 268 watt hours to run, but it'll run it for probably a few minutes if it's something 600. And more importantly, guys, is the battery composition, at least in my opinion. When I recommend people, I tell them to stay away from the jackeries that are lithium-ion batteries. There's three types of batteries going into these units now. There's lithium-ion, there's lithium polymer, and there's lithium iron phosphate. And what's the difference between them? Well, let's look at it this way. Lithium-ion is a good battery. It's light, very light, produces a lot of power, but short-term power, and it's not that stable. It can explode under pressure, leakage, high heat. Lithium ion, for example, if these were both the same size, if I had two of these and one was a lithium ion battery inside for 600 watts and the other one was a lithium iron phosphate, well, the lithium ion battery, you could charge it fully and drain it 500 times. You could run it for 500 days straight, just almost 2 years straight. And after that, it would hold up to about 80% of its charge, which is, for some people, that's good. Lithium iron phosphate batteries, under the same conditions, you could charge that 3,400 times, 3,500 times. So that means you could drain it and charge it fully every day for 10 years, not almost 2 years, 10 years, and it would still maintain 80% of its charge. The swap out is lithium iron phosphate is a lot heavier than lithium ion. So the weight factor, that's why in cars and Teslas and stuff they're using lithium polymer batteries. And that's kind of in the middle between lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate. They don't have as long as life as lithium iron phosphate. They're not as light as lithium ion, but they're kind of in the middle range. They last longer, they got the power longer, but they're not the lightest and they're not the strongest. It's kind of a mixed match in the middle, if you can look at it that way. But most generators, if I recommend to my clients, and I just happen to borrow a couple Pecrons off one of my clients because I really wanted to test them out and play with them. Happier than heck to recommend lithium iron phosphate batteries. Longer lifespan, a lot safer, a lot more durable, but they are a little bit heavier. Anyways, guys, I hope that answers a little bit of your questions, what you're looking for in a solar generator, your watt-hour needs, what type of inverter in there, make sure it's pure sine and make sure it has a lot of output to power the things you're going to want to plant, and most importantly, the battery composition. Anyways, guys, I'm Wild Willie, and I got to get trucking. Remember, it's not a question if, it's shit, it's fans. Question of when, so always be prepared.